Hello and welcome to Time Out. This is your show of interviews with persons of note, persons with fascinating careers, leaders of today and tomorrow, and others who will allow you to invest some time with us and get a guaranteed return. So today is a real special day for us folks at Time Out because we often interview politicians and professors and people like that. So today we're going to talk to some folks who have had interesting careers, and during their career they realized they had other talents rather than the job they were doing. Some people became potters, others drew pictures, some people built canoes or things like that. Well, today we're going to talk with people who write songs. You probably don't know that in Carborough at the Arts Center, there's a group of people who meet periodically, all who are songwriters. They're not professional songwriters, and they don't really know each other from the past. But they gather at the Arts Center, they play some of their songs, they talk about songwriting, and we are very fortunate today to have some songwriters with us. So we'll be introducing them as the show moves on. But today I'm going to look right over here at Mary Rokop, who is a songwriter, and great to have you with us.
Oh, thank you. I'm really happy to be here today.
Mary has been around for a while in the area. You live in a rural part of the area, from what I understand.
Yeah, we've been up in Cedar Grove, which is about 10 miles north of Hillsborough. We've been there since 1997, but I've been in the Triangle area since my days at Duke. I came down to Duke University in 1969, graduated in 73, and
here you are.
Here I am. I made roots and have stayed and been most happy in North Carolina.
Well, okay, so you didn't do songwriting when you came to Duke.
Well, I had written some songs when I got my parents gave me a guitar when I was in 11th grade, and I did write some songs in that period of my life, mostly when, sort of like the angst of growing up. I think that brings forth material. But I was not very focused on it or intentional about it. So it wasn't until I was in my 40s that I became intentional about it and wanted to take it more seriously and wanted it to be a bigger part of my life, and how I identified how, it was something that I identified that I was a songwriter. And
okay, you became a songwriter. You told yourself you were a songwriter.
Yes.
Nobody told you to write songs.
Nobody told me to write songs, no.
So, but you said you got your guitar in 11th grade, and how did you realize that you had this musical talent? How was playing the guitar? Could you do that well?
Well, not when I first got my guitar,
No.
But my parents gave me some lessons, or not, they didn't give me lessons, they gave money for lessons. So I took lessons when I was still living at home, and I took with a woman who did finger picking style. So I learned how to finger pick, and she was not a strummer, and so I never learned how to strum. I never learned how to bar chord because my wrist wasn't strong enough or whatever. So I have some serious deficiencies as a guitar player, but what I worked my own, I think the way that I play my guitar now is sort of came as an outgrowth of my writing songs, because I wrote the guitar portion from what I was hearing, and so trying to replicate that on the guitar has been. So it's given me my own sort of distinct style, is what I'm trying to say.
Is the guitar your only instrument?
Seriously, yes.
Seriously, okay.
Yeah, I did take piano lessons, and I'm a woefully slow piano player.
So you don't sing and play at the piano?
No. And I took up penny whistle a little bit, because I figured one note at a time, how hard could that be? But then there's like
penny
half
whistling.
notes.
Well,
there's half notes in there, and those are hard to do.
We haven't heard much of that on the People's Channel.
Yeah, I played auto harp a little bit. So I've had, but guitar is my main.
Well, Mary Rocap, tell us about the song that you're going to do first today.
right? The first song I'm doing is called A Half a Dozen Things.
A Half a Dozen Things.
A Half a Dozen Things. And I wrote that from a prompt. It was apparently the first line or a line within a poem, and we were just given these random slips of paper, and that was mine. And I really took to that, and I enjoyed writing from it. But when I put it in the CD, I realized that it was kind of, my CD is about sort of the deep December dreams, kind of stories that will get you through the winter. And the song is kind of a Scheherazade song of,
So that's
of a
quite a
storyteller.
transition from what you told me first to Scheherazade.
Yes, yeah. So, and anyway, that's how it functions in the, and it's how I've come to view the song.
Okay, let's hear the song. A Half a Dozen Things.
A dozen things, yes. Told you a half a dozen things, half of which weren't true. The other half are the wannabe hopes of a hopeless point of view. Will you take the lies I tell myself to get me through? They may be the only truth I have to give to you. Things that I was sure of turned out to be false. Things that I blamed others for turned out to be my fault. Things that I held sacred deep down in my heart, that used to shine like the rising sun, now I'm stumbling in the dark. Things that I thought would never change just up and blew away. Forever and forever, reduced to yesterday. Things that I never worried about lay heavy on my mind. What can I say to make you stay, not be leaving me behind? I told you a half a dozen things, half of which weren't true. The other half are the wannabe hopes of a hopeless point of view. Will you take the lies I tell myself to get me through? They may be the only truth I have to give to you.
Well, thanks for that song, Mary. A
You're
Half a
very
Dozen
welcome.
Things. I'll have to keep checking my grocery bag to see if I have the half a dozen when I get home. So how do you go about writing? You knew music. You knew the clefs and all that kind of stuff, I assume.
Yeah, I would say I'm more of a, rather than a student, I have more of a feel for music, which I think developed as a child because my parents played classical music for us
At home, you
at
mean on
home.
the-
So I developed an ear for melody, for harmony, for how music, has moves, it has crescendo, it has climax, it has resolution. All those things I felt like I learned through listening to good classical music, particularly the romantic.
It's interesting.
Berkeley
Classical
Ballad.
music seems to be a good example of helping you stabilize your life. When my children were growing up, I used classical music when they were bickering. I'd turn the
Yeah.
classical music on at my home, and they would quiet down.
Yeah.
Is that happen for other people
I don't know
too?
whether they did that as a way to control our behavior or not. I think it was just mostly they loved it.
Okay.
But
Well,
anyway,
but
yeah.
songwriting.
So so songwriting.
Yeah.
I think there were mostly I would say storyteller in my songs. So I don't often. It's not like the big reveal about like this thing is happening to me, but it's more of more of a cosmological. Like if I see stars, I want to say, well, why is the Big Dipper there, or why is Cassiopeia there with a mirror? Or, what
I have your
what's
CD,
an
which has
explanation?
interesting titles to your songs,
Yeah,
which kind of reflects what you're saying.
yeah.
So, is the music first, or is the message first? How do you create one and blend it with the other? That's the thing
I would say
very
for me the
difficult.
message is more important than the music. I would say I've turned into a lyricist more than a melody maker. The words have become increasingly more important to me. I don't want to say that I'm a poet by default, because there's a rhyming scheme and I'm very interested in the number of syllables and stuff like that. But my daughter is a true poet, so I will make a distinction between a poet and a songwriter.
Your daughter?
I have a daughter who's a poet, Marielle Prince.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, that's an aside, just as a
Well,
contrast.
People's children learn things from their parents or from their
Yeah.
genetic makeup.
Yeah, we have writers in the family.
Now, you are a full-time employee of a historic church in Hillsborough, I understand. When you're working in a church, you're kind of part of a mission there. I mean, the church has a message, of course, and how does that fit with your personal talent? Have you gotten any inspiration or otherwise?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I would say that there are times when, from scripture readings in the services, that I've been inspired to make songs from that. I like reimagining maybe old stories from the Old Testament or the New Testament and giving them new context, making them more like my own.
Your interpretation of an Old Testament story.
So I've done a number of songs in that vein, but also the church has given me opportunity to do a lot of music, and
So you do a lot of music at the church?
I do for services and
During a regular service or
Yep.
during children's meetings or
no, mostly during regular services. I also lead a women's singing circle at the
a
church.
singing circle?
uh-huh.
I never heard of such that.
It's a women's singing circle, and we meet for once a month for a service of evening prayer, and then we also sing within that service.
What do you sing in the women's singing
Mostly older. We like the period of like the 1880s.
The old hymns? Are these hymns?
Old hymns, old spirituals. So, yeah.
So the church has given you quite a part of your life,
Yes.
important part of your life.
Yes, I would say so.
And I guess the church feels that you have been an important part of their existence.
I hope so.
With the work you do there. You work for full time. Your work there is not in the music world, though.
No, but they're there's a lot of bleed, I would say, between my music and the church.
Okay, so tell us about your next song.
The next one is my Christmas song. Then it's called "'Twas in the Dead of Winter," and I sing this actually with the Women's Singing Circle, and so those are the voices that you will hear in the chorus section. And this is a group of women that I lead at St. Matthew's, and so they join me on the recording.
Well, I know we've heard that song played on Rob Westerman's show
Good.
on
Yeah,
WCOM.
good.
And so I'm somewhat familiar with it, and I'm sure some of our viewers are going to be familiar with it too. So
Yeah, I think it's almost a famous song.
let's hear it.
Yeah. 'Twas in the dead of winter, the angels did proclaim to sleepy-eyed poor shepherd boys who with their flocks remained. They were not praying for a sign as they gazed into the sky. The stars ascended brightly till heavenly hosts drew nigh. God's word of peace and brotherhood came to these gentle folk. They were not learned men nor rich, but to them the angels spoke. They marveled, then they followed, and found the sleeping babe, and told all who'd listen of the child who'd come to save. Angels did proclaim to sleepy-eyed poor shepherd boys who with their flocks remained. Tonight I look up in the sky, the stars look down on me, the heavens still sing peace on earth, to God all glory be. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Gloria in excelsis
Well, Jeff Houghton,
Hi.
nice to have you on the show today. We have been having so much fun with songwriters, and you know you're here because you're a songwriter.
It's good. That's good.
But you're other people too. You have a long history. The thing I've been telling our viewers that people go through lives with one career, and sometime they realize that they have some artistic talent, and some people have music talent and want to write songs, and I guess you fit that.
Well, yes. I started rather late, of course, writing songs. I was, in business, international business, so I traveled a lot around the world, and I suppose one of the reasons I got into music was that I found in various locations that I'd worked, there were other musicians, and other musicians, we got together in the evenings. I got together in the bar in one of those houses as a way of passing the time, and we played, played music together. And back in the 1990s, I was working in Ukraine, in Kiev in Ukraine, and a number of other cities as well. And someone came to interview me one day, and it turns out he was from my hometown back in the UK. And he also supported the same soccer team as I did.
Uh-oh.
And then he said, well, he said, I'm playing some music on St. Patrick's night. Would you like to come along? So I came along and saw him play on St. Patrick's night. And although I'd had a guitar for many years, I really couldn't play it very well. And I thought, well, he doesn't play it that much better than I did. So I got
This
a
was
guitar.
in the Ukraine.
In the Ukraine, of
You
all
were singing
places.
in English.
We were absolutely in English. It would be very difficult to sing in any other language for me.
Well, okay. Well, let's back up a little bit. You're giving us a few tips on what you were doing. So, how did you get to what you were doing? What kind of work? How would you define this work for neophytes that don't know what you're up to?
Well, I kind of help the development of small business, and that's from actually working directly one-on-one with small businesses, right through to helping them get access to credit, working with banks, financial institutions, with business support, helping them get access to training and
So a variety of things, not just marketing, not just financing.
anything related to small business, including writing the national strategy. I've written the national strategy for small and medium enterprises for Kosovo, and I've worked on other national strategies in Moldova and other places as well.
So you did tell me a cute little story about Albania.
Well, there's a...
Who met you at the airport?
Well, yes, it's
Then we'll get into music.
just before I got to Albania, our counterpart at the Ministry of Economy, they needed an interpreter. And one of the people in the ministry, who was an econometrician, he had a daughter who spoke fluent English, and they persuaded her to come to the airport to meet me.
Okay.
And that was on the 1st of February 1992. And I was very, very lucky indeed, because that lady later became my wife, and we're still together.
Wow, and she's here. She's some type of faculty person, I understand.
She's a professor of physics, professor of cosmology at the University of North Carolina.
Well, Jeff, how about your first song? I understand you have one you're ready to sing, and tell us the title and a little bit about it.
The song is called "That's All."
Where'd you get that title?
It just emerged out of the original lyrics, and it was kind of saying, this is what I can do, but that's all. Eh?
I see.
And then I found out that there's a number of other songs called "That's All," including a famous one by Phil Collins.
Okay.
But there's no copyright. You can have the same title of a song. That's allowed. Anyway, I started writing the original lyrics after I was on a long distance plane journey. I think it was to Mongolia or somewhere, and I got this melody in my head, and it seemed to end in "That's all."
I
Then I realized that was the chorus. That was the refrain within that song. So. That's all. And from that, then I built up a verse or two with a kind of short storyline, and then that's all, and then continued like that.
So how long does it take until you're happy with a song?
I have some songs that I've recorded expensively in studios that I'm still not happy with, but the point is, with this particular song that you're going to hear next. The original lyrics are not the lyrics that I have to that song now. Because after putting this whole song together in the form it's in, I didn't like the original lyrics.
No, now we're going to hear Jeff Houghton singing his first song today, That's All. Jeff, go to it.
I'm not all the things you dreamed of, not a movie star, but I'm told it's just that with you I'm so in love. You can have all I've got, that's all. So how can I get your attention when it's not in my nature to crawl? To love you's my only intention. say I love you, arms that say I want you, lips that say why won't you, then you might not pass me by. Can't promise you won't for nothing, but always I'm here should you fall. I'll try to keep doing the right thing, spend my life loving you, that's all. If you'd look my way, you'd see eyes that say I love you, arms that say I want you, lips that say why won't you, then you might not pass me by. Can't promise you won't for nothing, but always I'm here should you fall. I'll try to keep doing the right thing, spend my life loving you, that's all. Spend my life loving you, that's all. Spend my life loving you, that's all.
Jeff, you have another song for us today?
Yes, this song is what I call a relationship song. It's called "To Change Me." You know, and the opening line is, "Why did you try to change me?"
We're hearing Jeff Houghton now to sing "To Change Me."
Thank you.
Why did you try to change me? Turns out I wasn't good enough. Tried to be just what you wanted, and turned my cheek when times got rough. Why did you try to change me? You started hating things I chose. Nothing I could do could please you. The car, the house, the kids, my clothes. You turned me into your mistake, became a loser in your eyes, because you couldn't get perfection. You couldn't cope with second prize. Your continuous rearranging finally led us to a fall. If I needed so much changing, why did you marry me at all? Why did you try to change me? I failed to be your high ideal. Told me your friends men made more money. You knew just how that made me feel. You turned me into your mistake, became a loser in your eyes, because you couldn't get perfection. You couldn't cope with second prize. Your continuous rearranging finally led us to a fall. If I needed so much changing, why did you marry me at all? Why did you try to change me? Right now I couldn't give a damn. number one to someone special who loves me just the way I am. I'm glad you tried to change me. So glad you tried to change me. So glad you tried to change me.
Wow. Okay, so here we are now with this great history of you consulting businesses all over the European world, Asian world also.
Asian world and Africa too, yeah.
Africa too. So then somewhere along the line in Kiev you started singing, and somewhere along the line you decided to write some songs.
Yeah, it was in Kiev. We played every Saturday night for a number of years, and that institution continued for 7 or 8 years after I left, by the way. But I just started trying to write songs then, but I wasn't really sure where to go from then. But I also started. Then I moved to another few locations and ended up again in Albania. And I started writing poems somewhere along the way, and then trying to write songs. In fact, one of the first songs I wrote was a song about Kiev. I called it Kiev Girls, which is but I didn't really record that until a lot later. I put that song down, and then in Albania we started a rock and roll band in the 2000s, and we called ourselves the Bloku Blues Band.
The what kind of blues?
Bloku. Now that's Bloku. And why Bloku? Because in communist times in communist Albania, which is closer to North Korea than anything else,
Okay.
ordinary people were not allowed to go in the center of this central area where all the high-level officials were, and they were blocked, and it got nicknamed Bloku. And that's how the district became Bloku, and that's how I named the band Bloku Blues Band.
But by the time you were there, that has expired, that blocking.
Oh yes, okay, yeah. Everything's free from that point onwards. Albania now is a market economy.
It's a small democracy.
It's a small democracy and a market economy, and doing quite well. Yeah.
Okay, so back to the music now. They were doing the Blocko. That you kept going with music.
Yeah, I started seriously writing songs during that time, and I was fortunate in that in the band there were some great musicians in the band, including a guy called John Rabalya, who now lives in Colorado, who was a jazz guitarist, and I learned so much from John, and that was part of the development of writing songs. So I got a lot of songs together during that period. This is the 2000s. And then I started recording them towards the end of the 2000s and into the 2010s, and that's when I moved. I was living for a while in Cambridge in the UK, and I was reciting some of my poems at the Cambridge Poetry Group, and next to me was a guy I got talking to who ended up that he'd come from the same city as me, came from Liverpool in the UK. He also went to the same high school as me, but 15 years after me.
Wow.
And he was a writer and poet. And we decided then, we decided, well, I'd like to try and put some of your poems to music, turn them into songs. And we did, in fact, and we put out a CD in 2014.
Okay, wow.
Of his
2014?
2014.
That's pretty recent.
It's recent. It's only really recently I've started actually going into the studio and recording them. I did some recordings in Kosovo in 2010, 2011. I found a great producer in Kosovo, of all places.
Really?
Yeah, and I put some songs down with
musicians
him.
seem to find people.
Yes, we do.
That's kind of interesting.
We tend to find each other. I don't know what it is, but somehow we seem to be able to recognize other musicians. And when musicians get together, of course, they've got something in common right away, right?
Sure. Yeah. That's how you and Mary and Rob and the others in your songwriting group you kind of collect, and you have empathy with one another.
We really do, and I have to give my praise to the North Carolina Songwriters Cooperative and the Songwriters Circle, because when although I've been coming to Chapel Hill for some time, I decided to approach the group, and I was made very welcome and very friendly, and we sing our own songs once every 2 weeks or so. And then we get feedback from the other participants. So we learn a lot from each other, and we get tips from each other. And that's been an inspiration to me, that group. I was also in a songwriters group in Toronto before that.
When you're doing your writing, how do these songs develop? I mean, you have to have something that inspires you to write the words or the notes one after the other. How do you do that?
You never know. I mean, it's usually with me, it's a line, or I overhear a conversation in a bar or a cafe or something, and I hear someone, well, that's an interesting line, and from that line I'll then write, sort of jot down a few notes, try and get a verse, usually a verse, and then look if I can put any music to that verse. I usually use.
So it's kind of lyrics first.
With me, it tends to be lyrics first, but not always. I can never be sure. But it's usually lyrics, and then I start with a verse, and then I put look at other verses. Then I'll look for a bridge if it needs it, a chorus if it needs it. Then I'll go over it so many times before before I'm relatively happy with it. I hope I'm happy with it before I actually go to a studio and spend money and get it recorded.
Well, do the words? So you have the lyrics in your head. Do the lyrics create a certain beat or a certain level of volume or a certain style of music, one note after the other?
Yes, they do, because I write poems. I wouldn't say I write poetry. I write poems. Okay. Because I write poems, and I go to a lot of trouble to make sure they scan correctly, and they've got some rhythm. After I've scanned the lines. Mm-hmm. A rhythm tends to emerge, even a melody tends to emerge from the rhythm. Mm-hmm. It's a bit like rap, when you keep repeating phrases over and over again, then music seems to flow from it. Mm-hmm. And then I'll sit down, usually at a keyboard, and then try and tap out a melody, and then I'll sometimes I get the melody down I'll do a lead sheet on a music program called Finale, and actually get the music down, or it's just different ways. But I eventually end up with the lyrics with some music, and then in a position where I'm able to record the song. Right?
It sounds like we all should be able to do this, but we all aren't doing this. And you do this, Rob does this, Bob Dylan does this, Mary, who we had on earlier, does it. I used to sing and play the piano and play brass instruments, but I've never had any sense that you folks have of creating anything. I'm not a creator. I'm a follower, I guess.
I think it's a question of you've got to sit down and try. Uh-huh. It's about, if you can't revise, if you're not happy with the revision, if you're not happy, if you want to get it down first time and not revise, you're not going to write anything. Uh-huh. It was I think it was Dylan Thomas who when he first put out a book of poems, he said in the preface, I could go on revising these poems, but I have to publish sometime. The work is never finished.
Hey, this is a great day for me because I'm talking to these songwriters, all of whom started life doing something different. And now we're going to have an interesting conversation with Rob Westerman. And I've known Rob a while because he is The Boy Who Would Have Loved You. That's the name of his show and a song. The name of his show. He does at WCOM at 4 o'clock on Mondays and
Wednesdays.
And Wednesday, and you're going to be late today, probably.
No, I won't. We'll be there.
Okay, so Rob, you've been around a while. Forget the music for just a minute. Where did all your life start? And I heard you were in the Navy for a while and did some interesting work for the government.
I went to the Naval Academy. I went to the Naval Academy because I grew up at the New Jersey shore in the water all the time, and I loved boats and swimming and all that, and it was natural for me to try and get into the Naval Academy.
They got you in because of that?
Partially, because I was somewhat athletic and a reasonable student, both things. I got an appointment from the Secretary of the Navy as a qualified alternate, which I was very proud of because it wasn't a political appointment. It was an appointment based on merit.
Uh-huh. So you were in the Academy, you graduated, you became a naval officer for a period of time.
I became an intelligence officer, like you were also.
Okay, but I was not through the Naval Academy or even through West Point. So tell me a little bit about your Navy career.
For my naval career, I switched services when I graduated, and I went into the Air Force. I worked in California. I'm sorry, folks, but I'm an older guy.
You're not as old as
We're the two older guys. And I actually flew around Cuba during the Cuban Missile Crisis on the destroyer Kennedy, Joseph P. Kennedy Jr. I was down there for that on active duty. And then I was in Germany for 3 years and ran an operation in and out of the Berlin corridors for 3 years. And then I got out and I got back in the reserves 10 years later and finished a career in the Naval Reserve Intelligence.
Okay, and you spent a lot of time in the islands in Hawaii, didn't you, in all this work?
I'm still in the islands. That was afterward. I finished. I was a college professor, and I finished my college professor teaching, and I started to work for the military again as a civilian, and I ended up in Pearl Harbor area working for the Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific.
And what was your capacity of the kind of work you were doing?
I was an operations research analyst.
What's that
which
mean?
is timely nowadays because quantitative methods have kind of slipped into the mainstream more than people realize, and it's not something that some people off to the side do. More and more people are learning to build data and analytics into their management decisions.
That's very true.
And so forth. So that's what I did, and I actually designed the system that the military uses worldwide today and until the year 2030 when they try and figure out what it is that they're doing around the world.
What do you mean you designed a system?
I actually sat in a back room with spreadsheets and for some time designed a Excel spreadsheet that summarized what went on in 43 countries in a standard way, and you could click on it and it would shift a country so you saw the next country in the same standard format, and I had
And so when you see the country, what does it show you?
It shows you how many of this type of activity you're doing with the country, how many of that type.
Okay.
What percentage it is in this region, what percentage it is in the.
So that's really an intelligence function, isn't it?
It's the kind of intelligence that's like business intelligence, not military intelligence.
But you're finding out things that are going on that you wouldn't find out unless you had the system.
If you don't have this information, I don't see how you can manage a joint command or manage the military. You need to have this system, and it's still in process where they're trying to make it work because people resist putting data in, and you always have to push on them to get the data in there correctly. And this is current information I'm giving you.
That sounds like a long way from songwriting.
Well, while I was doing that, my joy was going out in Hawaii and singing karaoke, and I sang different songs all over the place because like Mary, I had a lot of music in my head from growing up and my parents and various things. And I also played at Market for 4 years with just my guitar and a chair for a while.
But that's where you got going in your music, was in Hawaii?
Hawaii was a big thrust. Yeah, I finished writing the Christmas CD that I've written. There was 13 Christmas songs then, and I wrote songs. I worked with Nathan Avio as Don Ho's music director,
Sure.
and Wendell Ching as Don Ho's drummer. And we would meet week by week and record I'd give them new songs on a tape that I had, and Nathan would prepare the first music. I had played on the guitar roughly, and we put together a CD. And I also worked with Jerry, who, in California. I would take what we did there and go to California.
See the guy I talked to on the phone?
Yeah,
All right.
and we finished the CD, and most of the production was done in California. But you'll hear Nathan sing on one of the songs that I'm going to sing on the show. Nathan sings backup. He's a big-time performer in Hawaii.
Okay. Well, you mentioned Christmas. Is that your specialty?
I have come to find that it is my purpose in life to try and reinvigorate Christmas and Christmas music and Christmas in general.
Not as a religious event.
No, the partying side of Christmas, the present giving side of
commercial
Christmas.
side.
But I don't ignore the religious side of Christmas either. Like in my children's book, I have the Christmas auntie goes to church before she goes out to give out the presents. Studio. I don't go in like Jeff, who's coming up also, where everything is laid out very specifically and just record and get out of there. I'll spend a whole week in the recording studio, 12 hours a day, straight.
You enjoy that, don't you? You enjoy the
I can
mechanics
be
of it.
there at 2:00 in the morning, and and we've just finished a song and put a lot into it, and Jerry will look up at me and say, "What's next?" and he will stay there as long as I will. And yes, I love it.
I guess you
it's
like to
turning
do
into this
things,
thing that you are.
you want it the way you want it. That's what you're telling
I'm
me.
very detail oriented,
Yeah.
but I do it in a learn by experience way, not by writing things out correctly and learning all the theories.
Okay, well, tell me about some of the music specifically. I see in front of me a cover of a Hawaiian Christmas music.
Yeah, in Hawaii, one day I finished a Christmas song. I finished one Christmas song, and Nathan Avio looked up at me, and he had just recorded on it and everything, and he said, "What's next?" And I said, "I'll give you a song in 3 days." And I wrote this song called Aloha Lani. That's a woman's name in Hawaii. Kaliki Maka Auntie. That means Christmas auntie. And
Christmas auntie?
yeah, and so I wrote this song, and the words were like natural. Santa Claus didn't fit with Hawaii, you know. They put him in shorts. They have him doing the shaka sign. They have him drinking a Mai Tai. They have him on a surfboard. But he doesn't fit there in a lot of places. And it doesn't help the Hawaiian culture at all to have Santa Claus there. You know, so somehow or other, it just was natural. It came out, like I think, Mary, you said that too, that there was a young instead of an old Christmas gift giver. She was an auntie, because women in Hawaii are called auntie.
Is that right?
Or tutu. And she...
No matter whether they're
She's a demigod.
auntie or tutu is just a generic word, whether you're mother or aunt or.
If you see a woman on the street, you can call her auntie.
Is that right?
Or tutu, yeah. And so I have this young auntie that she's a demigod, and she knows how to fly. And they have Manihuni, the little people 2 feet tall, taking an air surfing board at Christmas full of toys. There's a toy compartment pulled by owls. Owls are big in Hawaiian history. Most people don't know that, but they are back there. And they deliver the toys Christmas Eve.
The owls?
The birds, the owls.
Yeah, right, the owls. Okay, no Santa Claus.
And of course, a story has to have some kind of a scary thing in it or something like that. So I added a section like that with her jealous cousin Pelea, the granddaughter of Pele.
We're going to hear a couple of your songs in a little while, but I want our people that are watching and listening to get a sense of your feeling about music. Mary was good at talking to us about how she feels about the music that she does. And what's your psychological or spiritual relationship to the music that you write?
I have music running around in my head all the time. When I saw the movie Amadeus, Amadeus had the music in his head. He had it in his head, the whole piece, whatever you call it, yeah. And I don't have anything like that, but I do have it in my head too, the same way Mary did too. I had a friend in Hawaii that wrote 50 songs. He actually printed out the words, but the melodies were all in his head, and he knew them. It was incredible. I love music, and I get it now through WCOM when I prepare my WCOM shows and whatever.
That's WCOM, folks. Yeah. That's a community station in Carver where he has 2 shows.
Yeah.
Okay, we're about through with this few-minute interview we had. I know we're going to have a couple of songs of yours, which people are anxiously waiting to hear out there watching this video. But you said you had a son in music. Don't you have a daughter? You mentioned Carrie.
My daughter Kari is now Kari Maxwell. She's been Kari Miller for a number of years, and she's been in 15, 20, 30, I don't know how many shows. She was the lead in Chicago, the show, one of the leads in Chicago, Velma.
In the movie or
on stage.
On the stage?
I watched her in Nashville this year. She has 3 kids now. I watched her walk out on the stage, the first performer in 1920s outfit, flapper, singing all that jazz and dancing around. Yeah. And she had to do a cartwheel in the middle of it, and she had to kind of carry the show. She was the most energetic person in the whole show, and she's a professional theater person. She sings lead on most of my songs.
Is she in Nashville?
She's just south of Nashville, Franklin, Tennessee.
So is she still doing this?
Oh, yeah. She's been doing it for 15 years or 20 years, 15.
Okay. So that's her career. I mean,
and she works in the church like Mary, too. And then she does the shows, and she teaches performing. She has about 5 different jobs, and she has 3 kids, too. So.
Well, tell us about the first song you're going to do today. We'll listen to it, and then we'll come back and get your second song.
Aloha Lani Kaliki Maka Auntie, the Christmas auntie. She brings gifts for children on Christmas Day. You better watch out, because you never know. Is it your Auntie B or your Auntie Flo?
Okay.
Aloha lani, kalikimaka auntie.
Okay, well, let's hear it.
Aloha lani, kalikimaka auntie. Aloha lani, kalikimaka auntie. She brings gifts for the children Christmas Day.
Aloha lani, aloha lani.
You better be good, cause you never know. Is it Auntie B or Auntie Flo?
Aloha lani, kalikimaka auntie.
Mrs. Claus says, Santa, do you know?
Do you know, Santa, do you know?
Hawaii is just too far for you to go.
Far to go, too far to go.
Why don't you find an auntie with a heavenly smile to deliver the toys Hawaiian style?
Aloha lani, kalikimaka auntie.
Santa said there could be a way, I know.
Aloha lani, aloha lani.
We'll get the uncles Manehune's production on an island like
Aloha
Niihau.
lani, aloha lani.
Canoes outrigged like catamarans to deliver the toys into Auntie's hands.
Aloha lani, kalikimaka auntie.
Mrs. Santa packed her bags, elves loaded the sleigh.
Load the sleigh, bells load the sleigh.
Dancer girl and vixen flew her to Hawaii that day.
To Hawaii, Hawaii that day.
She found a local auntie with some magical powers to fly like a bird through the hills and the flowers.
Aloha lani, kalikimaka auntie. Aloha lani, kalikimaka auntie.
Every Christmas Eve, Lonnie comes to your house.
To your house, she comes to your house.
With her Manehune people, quiet as a mouse.
Like a mouse, quiet like a mouse.
She fixes up your tree with local stuff. Presents on the bottom, candy on top.
Aloha lani, kalikimaka auntie. Aloha lani, kalikimaka auntie.
She brings gifts for the children Christmas Day.
Aloha lani, aloha lani.
You better be good, cause you never know. Is it Auntie B or Auntie Flo?
Aloha lani, kalikimaka auntie. Aloha lani, kalikimaka auntie. Aloha lani, kalikimaka auntie.
Rob, that was great. I mean, you know, Hawaiian culture right down to the last beat. Yeah, that's terrific.
It gets people's feet stomping up and down, you know, and people walking by when I'm singing will give me the shaka sign, which means that sounds really good. You all did it in here when I sang it. You liked it in
I know.
At the songwriters group. They really liked that song a couple weeks ago.
So you have another one, which I understand is much more serious in nature.
Yes, I really loved Pretty Paper, Pretty Ribbons of Blue. I told you about that. But this song is a strong rock kind of song, strong guitars. I guess you could call it folk rock. And basically, it's a homeless man. You're going to see a music video of this song, and it'll feature my daughter Kari singing the song, and my son Kit, the one that I talked
I saw
about
that video in the studio right here a couple months ago. You were playing it.
Yeah. And so I have been working on doing the video together with the song. I gave the song over to my daughter Kari to sing, and I sing a tiny little bit in there as the homeless man, and my son acts out the part of the homeless man in Rittenhouse Square in Philadelphia. So,
Well, we'll hear that too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's great. Let's hear that. It's a sad song, folks, but it's got quite a message.
Flakes of snow falling melt on the sidewalk. Christmas bells ring familiar to you. On the street, usual place on the sidewalk, sits a man, no one knows his name. he fought in the war. Now withdrawn, he still feels the pain. Ooh, on the sidewalk. There's a hat by his side on the sidewalk. And there's a look in his eyes that touches you. There's a tone in his voice that cries, it's Christmas. Won't you drop in $1 or two? Ooh, on the sidewalk. Hello, sir. How's it going for you? Merry Christmas. Can you help? I need food. It's cold here in the snow, and I've nowhere to go. Please help, I've got nothing to do. Ooh, on the sidewalk. On the sidewalk. Every day his heart aches on the sidewalk. Painful memories of people he knew. Every night in the park he cries after dark. Family ties broken